What's up, everybody? Welcome to Real Talk Real Estate. I'm your host, Mark Cannon, local realtor here in the Phoenix area with my home group real estate and owner of the Benchmark Real Estate team. So today, if you are listening, we're going through different document changes and what's going on. Now, if you haven't listened before, I do this in a podcast format. So normally I would throw stuff up on the screen, but I'm not going to edit what I'm saying because I want to be real with you guys. That's why it's called Real Talk Real Estate. Just trying to be real with people and help people understand. But today I'm doing a screencast. So if you're not watching on YouTube or Spotify, if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, maybe you want to go tune in. So that way you can kind of see what I'm going to be showing, because I'm going to be going over the listing contract, the buyer broker, the SCA, which is the compensation document, and I'm going to be showing you the changes. Now, there are not that many changes. Many of you will remember back in August 2024, lawsuit happened, settlement happened, which changed real estate, which means we had lots of new documents. Yay, more paperwork. And I've done other videos on that. You can go watch that. And I'll probably be doing a video here soon about like the state of real estate and how that's been working out for people. But for me, it's one of those, I'm going to be going over the document changes because I did this with the last document changes because you need to know that. Like, that's my job. I need to know these documents. It is amazing to me how many realtors don't know these documents at all. It's crazy. So I'm going to go over the changes. The changes aren't drastic, but there are some small changes that you need to be aware of so that way you know what's going on. So let me make myself smaller here for this screencast. So the first document we're going to talk about is the exclusive right to sell. And this document is when you're selling your home. You're going to sign this with a realtor. Now, there are some other documents you could use to sell your home that aren't exclusive, but hardly anyone uses those. This is the document you're going to see people use. So in this document, we're not going through the whole thing because only a piece of it changed. And it's the piece about compensation. And what they've done is, and honestly, they should have done this from the beginning. So if we go down here, so you can see it's a draft. Actually, let me move myself over so you can see all of it. So this is the compensation section of the exclusive right to sell document. So obviously right here, you know, the listing broker compensation, this right here is what you're going to be paying to the selling agent. So the listing agent, this is what they're getting paid right here. Or it's either a percentage or a dollar amount. That's set when you sign the contract with that agent. So that hasn't changed. All right, the red is what's changing. The red line is what is the changing part. So unrepresented buyer, that is, okay, someone shows up, they don't have a realtor, they want to be unrepresented. Okay, what are you going to pay your realtor, the listing agent, on top of this? So it'd be this plus this, because we don't work for free, unfortunately. And it's one of those, if we're going to take on the liability, because there is a lot of liability for us and risk taking an unrepresented buyer, especially with how much they fall out. It is actually better for them to have a realtor. Just going to be real with you. But the buyer broker section changed. So the way it used to show, and you can see it's crossed out, is they crossed out this section and they had this section right here. And what it was is you had the option of, okay, if you put a percentage in here or a dollar amount in here, that is what we're going to advertise, not on the MLS because that's not allowed anymore. But if somebody called me and let's say in this line you put, X percentage, whatever number, okay, that percentage, if someone comes and say, hey, are you offering a buyer broker compensation? I could say, yes, it's this amount. That's what this allowed us to do. Now that's going away, which honestly is good. It's now just part of the contract. So, which is the way it was already. And so they're just kind of simplifying it, going, well, we'll just do this at the time of contract. So they changed it where it says the owner does or does not authorize listing broker to communicate, and not an offer of compensation, but owner's willingness to potentially compensate a prospective buyer. So what does that mean is they might be willing. So this is where you go to your seller and you say, all right, when we're signing this, are you open to paying buyer broker compensation to a buyer's agent? If they say yes, does. No, does not. And you're going to have to talk about the results of that, because if they put does not, they may, especially in Phoenix, we're in a buyer's market right now, they would be at a competitive disadvantage not doing buyer broker compensation. So what this changes is for this document. So let me show you the SCA. So the SCA is our compensation document that goes with the contract. It is now part of the contract. And this is what we use to negotiate for the buyer agent's compensation. Because for a buyer, they will have a buyer broker agreement, which we'll talk about in a second, with a buyer's agent. And that compensation piece in there will go here. So what they changed in this, so buyer broker compensation shows, all right, this goes with your offer. So right here, when you are submitting your offer on a house as a buyer, your realtor will include this. If they don't, they're not getting paid. So yeah, I've heard of that happening already. So they would check that box. They'd put whatever percentage or dollar amount that you guys have negotiated between you and your buyer's agent. So the only thing that changed here is they took out this part right here. Now what that means and why that was taken out There was another document called the CAB, the CABB, which is right here. You can see the compensation agreement between brokers. It was a dumb document, in my opinion, that they came out with, which was, it was almost doing it the same way we used to do buyer broker compensation. Well, the whole point of changing all this was to get rid of this. So I don't know. No one really ever used that document. So I've never had anybody submit an offer with it or seen anybody do it. Now, I'm sure there were people who did, but very few people were writing that. Like my brokerage was like, hey, we can't tell you not to use it, but we're going to highly discourage you from using it. And so none of us really did. And now they've gotten rid of that document completely. So AAR got rid of that document completely. So that's why this section is being changed in this document, in the SCA. Now let's talk through the buyer broker. So there's two different buyer brokers. This is the buyer broker exclusive employment agreement. This is the one I use and the only one I use. And what changed in this one is small, very small. It's literally this line right here, which must be a fixed amount or rate. So they didn't have that there before because apparently people were putting fluctuating numbers in these fields, and that's not what they want. So like for instance, when I sit down with a buyer and I say, hey, here's my fee, let's talk through it. Listen, I'm willing to negotiate with people, but I talk through what I offer and here's what I think I'm worth. Are we willing to come to an agreement? And we have to come to an agreement on a number. But apparently there were people putting like multiple numbers or a range, and like you can't do that. So they clarified this document, changed the dates right here, but that's the only thing that changed in this document. They changed the dates here again, and that was it. That changed. Now, there is another buyer broker agreement, and this will come in handy for like people who do Zillow leads. Oop, that's not what I want. Sorry, didn't bring up the right one. Here it is. It is the buyer broker agreement to show property. So the difference, if you can see, is this one. It says buyer broker exclusive employment agreement. So exclusive employment agreement, this one says buyer broker agreement to show property. So what does that mean? You can sign that with multiple people, with multiple agents. So if you could sign this with 10 different agents and okay, and it's one of those that it's not exclusive. So, people who do Zillow leads, stuff like that, they will sign these. But what changes, they changed this verbiage right here as well. They want it to be a fixed rate. And again, that's all that really changed in this agreement. So if you have more questions on this document, you can let me know. But overall, the biggest thing that changed was they changed some of the verbiage because they want more defined things in the contracts. They don't want it to be vague. They don't want it to be a range. They want it to be defined. So if you have questions about this, like I actually gained a client from one of my YouTube videos that I did on the exclusive employment agreement because some realtors still don't understand that. And even today, some of them do not understand how to write the agreement. And they're so confused by it because they're not taking classes, they're not learning. I'm doing that stuff all the time because this is what I get paid to do. I need to understand this stuff. So if you're thinking about buying or if you're thinking about selling and you have questions about these documents or you're not sure what something means, let me know. My information is right here. I'd love to talk with you. I'd love to work through it with you. I work real estate through relationships. That's how I grow my business. I work by referral, which means my clients refer me to people. That's the only way I grow my business because for me, I want to do such an amazing job. They'll refer me to everybody. So if you're watching this and you don't know me, I'd love to get to know you. I'd love to sit down for coffee. I'd love to get on the phone and talk with you, Zoom call, whatever it is, and just meet you and talk through everything with you so that way I can be a resource for you and help you however I can. Guys, I appreciate you listening. You've been listening to Real Talk Real Estate. I'll catch you next time.